Hi. It's been a while, hasn't it? Yeah. I don't really know where to start with like this explanation or whatever you want to call it. But as punishment, uh, here's my hairline. As you can see, it is very epic, and yeah, you can make fun of that, but I'm not having it like that. Okay, I'm gonna get it shaved eventually. Okay, just bear with me here. Okay. So where have I been for the past couple of weeks? Ask nobody. I've just been busy mostly. Like school's back, and as you can tell by my prepubescent voice, I'm in school full time. So with that back, I've just been I don't really have time to do it, and I had like a couple of assignments to do, and I just never really found the time. I mean, I had the script for this video done, like before it went back, but I never really found the time to just sit down and record my beautiful face. So yeah, there you go. This week's video, if you couldn't tell already, is based on the American Pie Quadrilogy series. Now, I'm talking about the original four, focusing on the main four guys, not the other ones because they suck, and I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose brain cells. Believe it or not, I do like them. Yeah, they're good guys. Yeah, Jimmy from HR, he's a good lad. So just a quick announcement before we get into the video. I said in my first Carlos vs. I'm Alex video that the series will be running bi-weekly. That will be starting in 2 weeks' time. Next week, which would be part two, there's a video I really want to make on a YouTuber I feel passionate about. So, yeah, with that in mind, enjoy the video. So the plot of this movie is that four guys after a party make a pact to lose their virginities before they graduate from high school and promise the last chance, and wacky hijinks ensue. I'll talk about if I like this plot later. Anyway, so there is a lot about this movie that I do like, so let's start about what I like most. The characters. In the first movie, you follow a group of four boys as they progress through the last weeks of high school. The characters here are Jim Levenstein, Chris Ostreicher, Paul Finch, and Kevin Myers. Many people argue that the protagonist here is Jim Levenstein because the best scenes in the movie involve Jim. To that, I say yes and no. Yes, because the best scenes in this movie do involve Jim, but also no, because I don't believe Jim is the protagonist in this movie. Because emphasis is put on all four characters here. With the later two movies down the line, more emphasis is put on specific characters. The characters here are a little bit stereotypical, and my favorite here is Chris Ostreicher. Why, you may ask? The reason is because he's the only person with a shred of fucking character development. The side character is also really good in this movie, like Jim's dad, played by Eugene Levy. Eugene Levy is the second best actor in this movie. The best character in the series, though, is none other than Steven Stifler, played by Sean William Scott. More on that later. There are also characters like the main four's love interest, but we'll talk about them later. The main reason why I love these characters is that the characters play with each other so well, and it makes for some good conflict as well as funny and iconic scenes, especially from Eugene Levy and Jim Levenstein, played by Jason Biggs, like this one.
Just a second. Come in, come in.
Oh, Jim, you're here. I was just walking by your room, and you know, I was thinking, boy, it's been a long time since we've had a little father-son chat. Oh, I almost forgot. I bought some magazines. Do you want to just flip to the center section? Well, this is the female form, and they have focused on the breasts, which are used primarily to feed young infants, and also in foreplay.
Right.
This is Hustler, and this is a much more exotic magazine. Now they have decided to focus more on the pubic region,
Right.
The whole groin area.
Uh-huh.
Look at the expression on her face. You see that? See what she's doing? She's kind of looking right into your eyes, saying, "Hey, big boy, Hey, how you doing? You see?
Right.
Shaved is a magazine I'm not too familiar with, but again, if you flip to the center section, well, you see the detail that they go into in this picture here.
Yeah.
It almost looks like a tropical plant or some underwater
Yeah.
thing. Do you know
Thanks.
what a clitoris is?
Oh my God.
Well,
Yes,
I
I
mean,
know
don't
what
say,
a
oh,
clitoris
you do.
is.
Oh, I
Yes.
see. Yes, you do. I forgot you've been there and
Well,
back. You know
I've
everything.
learned about it in
I'm
sex
just trying
ed.
to
You know,
make
I
this
really
as
don't need
painless
you to sit here
as
and
I
talk to
can,
me about
Jim. This
clitoris.
is
you know?
not.
You know what?
where to
I'm
find it,
sorry.
of course.
Okay, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
okay. No. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have got hot there. Well, you know what I'm going to do, Jim? I'm going to just leave these books here
Yeah,
for you to peruse at your leisure.
Wait.
Well, safer than a tube sock.
The acting is absolutely fantastic in this movie, especially from Sean William Scott as the one, the only Steven Stifler. Sean William Scott is by far the best actor in this movie, bringing so much to a character that is pretty bland, to be honest. Besides Stifler, the acting from most other characters it's pretty good, you know. Each portraying a reasonably good and realistic character that you could believe exist in the modern world. Now onto what I didn't like. Now this point spans across most of the movies in this series. That point is that at least one character develops while the rest learn nothing or grow as people. For example, in this movie, the only people who developed are Chris Ostraker and at very arguably Kevin Myers. The pacing in this movie it's fucking horrendous. Okay, this movie is so fast from scene to scene to scene to scene that it's ridiculous. With the pacing being overly fast, it doesn't give the viewer a chance to really reflect on their characters and their relationships. The scenes between Jason Biggs and Eugene Levy are the best, not only because of the acting and the dynamic, but it's also good because the pacing actually slows down a bit. And we get to focus on the individual characters instead of the progression of the plot, which itself isn't exactly new or original, or exciting to say the least. There's not much to say about the plot about this movie. It's decently generic, but the characters play off this plot in a way that makes it decently unique. As the four guys use different tactics to try to lose their virginity, eventually all five guys lose their virginity. The plot is kind of bland by itself, I guess. It's hard to describe what exactly I think it is because it's simple, and a simple plot is sometimes good because it allows the movie to give more time on developing characters. But this movie, it doesn't develop most of its characters. But except Chris Ostraker, of course, who learns to be more sensitive, caring, and mature. You can make that claim with Kevin Myers, as mentioned before, but it's not very interesting as the main conflict is between him and his girlfriend, and it's introduced so early and it's so rushed that the movie doesn't have time to develop and making meaning. Best thing about this plot, though, is that it sets up a really interesting relationship between Stifler and Finch. As you know, Finch, he rude Stifler's mother. Overall, the plot itself is pretty cliche and generic, and without the acting slash characters, the plot would be unbearable to say the least. In summary, I give this movie 7.2 out of 10, which means kind of epic. To be honest, there's not much that I like about the first one that I didn't like in the second. The characters are around the same quality, and so is the acting. Kevin Myers is more of an emphasis in this movie as he sets up the plot through dialogue with his brother, but Jim takes center stage here. By far the best part in this movie, the relationship between Michelle, Jim's prom date, and Jim fucking Levinstein. Jim grows a deeper relationship with Michelle over the course of the film as Jim prepares for the return of Nadia, Jim's first love. I can't show the clip of them because I don't want this video to get age restricted. Anyway, Jim and Nadia shared a sexual experience which ended in Jim prematurely ejaculating twice. Demonetization, by the way. Anyway, Jim was the best character in this movie, without a doubt, though. I do see a theme here, which is that the supposed protagonist has no character development, yet only one of his friends does. The plot in this movie is boring. I'm not sure how to describe it, Basically, what happens here is that the four guys and Stifler have just finished their first year of college and now on their way to vacation. Kevin gets advice from his older brother on how to have an absolute banger of a vacation, and so Kevin follows his older brother's advice and gathers the other three guys to head to a rental house that they will have to get jobs to pay for, and yada yada yada. Stifler comes along too after Jim invites him. Thank God Sean William Scott is in this movie. Without Stifler, this movie would be absolutely terrible. When the guys arrive, they get jobs as painters at a couple's house. The couples are both lesbians, I think? The movie isn't exactly clear, but based on what I'm seeing, I'm just going to assume they are. BuzzFeed, please don't rage on me. This is important for later. Not much happens in the second act of this movie. It's mainly spent on skits like this one, where Jim accidentally uses super glue as lube. Shit! Holy cow! And developing Jim and Michelle's relationship as Jim sneaks into Michelle's band camp to get sex advice for Nadia's return. And there's also this uncomfortably long scene between the two lesbians and Jim, Finch, and Stifler, where the guys have to do something erotic, and in return, the lesbians do something erotic as well. This goes on for about 6 minutes, which may not seem that long, but when you watch it, it feels like an hour. Overall, I give this movie, 6 out of 10, meaning, not fucking horrendous. Also, I forgot about this, the pacing in this movie can feel slow at times, but overall, it is definitely a step up from the first one. My therapist said not to see you no more. This movie sucks. There isn't much about this movie that I liked. The one thing I did like, however, is that they have character development for someone not in the core 4 group. Wow! Stifler surprisingly gets character development in this movie, which is good. Stifler learns to be more kind towards people and to be more emotionally intelligent, which was Stifler's biggest character flaw in the series. So it's good to see some grounded and real character development. Besides this, I think the plot is somewhat interesting, as it explores the idea of a wedding and how someone as frantic and unmannerly as Stifler could fit into it. Jim doesn't really get any character development in this movie, which is surprising considering it's his wedding. A big fault with the plot in these movies is that in most of them, the plot stiffens up around Act 2. The acting in this movie steps up with the introduction of Michelle's parents, played by January Jones and Fred Willard. The scenes between the parents and Jim are relatable and makes for some good tension. Oz isn't in this movie. I don't know why he isn't here, but his absence kind of takes a lot out of the good scenes that could have been there. The pacing in this movie is a lot slow, which I like, but as I said before, it gets too slow around the second act. There is one particular scene at the start of the movie, the first scene between Jim and Stifler, Jim's dad, and Michelle's parents, which I won't play because of age restriction. Anyway, this scene relies on shock value, which I absolutely hate in movies. This movie's comedy relies on shock value more than the other movies, which is uncreative and uninspired. Overall, I give this movie a 3.5 out of 10, meaning not absolute shit, but pretty close. If you look at this movie from a critic standpoint, then this is by far the best movie. The main four characters and Stifler all have character development in this movie, thank God, and separate stories that make their character into better people. Hallelujah. Jim learns how to appreciate his wife Michelle more, Kevin learns how to accept his past and move on, Chris learns more about himself, Finch learns how to be more truthful to his friends and himself, and Stifler learns how to stand up for himself. The pacing is pretty consistent in this movie. Most scenes flow relatively consistently. The acting overall felt like the best in the series. Unlike the other movies, the comedy doesn't rely on shock value that much, which is a definite positive. The plot in this movie is almost non-existent. We just follow the characters from one scene to another, which is very annoying. It just kind of feels like, hey guys, do you remember the first movie? Yeah, guys, remember we went this place and that place? Yeah, remember the local subway? Yeah, that's pretty epic. The humor as well isn't great. In the first act, the humor is absolutely fantastic. In the second act and the rest of the movie, it's kind of bad and it feels very forced. That's about all I didn't like in this movie. This movie overall, I would give a 7 out of 10, meaning pretty good. Overall, what I liked in this series is the characters, development, and acting from just about everyone they cast. Most of the humor is pretty funny, and I love the heart of these movies. What I didn't like is the plot most of the time. The cinematography is bland. It just kind of feels pretty generic. The characters can be fucking boring. The humor can rely on shock value, which is shit and extremely distasteful. And the pacing most of the time is off. In summary of this video, I love this quadrilogy of movies. My favorite movie in this quadrilogy is The First American Pie, which is not objectively the best. The objectively best movie is American Union. But overall, I love these movies for one main reason, and that reason is that these movies have heart. They're outlandish, they're raunchy, chaotic, and I love that. That about wraps up this video for this week. Thank you for watching and subscribe. Oh, and